if we're going to reset this, if we're going to win this culture war, if we're going to win this political fight, we got to get parents raising kids. But you can't do that if the whole next generation says, I don't want to have a kid, or I don't want to find a woman, because these women are all shallow thoughts, which, I mean, there's a growing number of them that are, but there's also a lot of them that aren't. And you just got to find it. If you get, it's like if you shoot your shot at the high school cheerleader, cheerleading captain, you get blown out of the water because she's dating Mr. 6'3" Chad Thundercock over here that's on the football team, and you think, oh, women are all shallow whores and you never go again. Like, that's the wrong, and then you start delving into MGTOW content. That's the wrong thing. Like, you just took your first failure and you took that to the bank and cashed it. And, that's all you got to your name now. Like, no, you got to invest in yourself. You got to take that loss and say, okay.
You're going to take a lot of losses. Yeah,
go
on. Yeah, sorry.
Take them out, That's it.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Raised in Bread. I'm your host, Basil. Ben isn't with us here today. If you do me a great favor, like and subscribe. Would greatly appreciate that. YouTube hates us and takes down a lot of our episodes. So if you recently we had an episode taken down by none other than the World Health Organization. So please give us a like, give us a subscribe. Follow us on Spotify. We're on Spotify, and we're on Rumble now because apparently we have to. So, because we're on someone's watch list. And with me today is someone I'm very, very, very excited about. Professional. I consider him a professional political poster / strategist / future FBI's most wanted list member, Mr. Malcolm Flex. Malcolm, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Basil. Man, it's a time to be alive. I'm not going to say what a time to be alive or how great it is, but it's a time to be alive, man.
It is a time to be alive. Now, I met Malcolm just online. I just thought he was funny. And then he's funny and he works out. That for me, that is enough for me to pay attention to someone. But then he revealed that he was intelligent. I found that very irritating because you shouldn't get all three. You should only get one or two of those things. But unfortunately, some people are just gifted. And I find Malcolm's insights on all sorts of things, whether it be Adam Schiff or, crony capitalism, and as to, the reasons and the foundations for the current Ukraine Russia crisis, to be both insightful while still being playful and really engaging for people. So I'm really excited to have you here. So what's on your mind, man? How's it going? How's it hanging?
Man, hanging. Well, I'm hanging in there right now. I think I still got one finger on the ledge, so that's at least enough to keep me up. But gravity's winning the battle, bro. Price of gas is too damn high. Rent is too damn high. Everything's just too damn high. Like, fuck, Adam Schiff's voice is too damn high. Like, I can't take it at all. And it messes with me. But that being said, I think that I'm steeped well enough into insanity to enjoy Twitter, which is at least, it's at least something that I can, kind of take like my bronze medal or something. Everything sucks, bro. It's bad out here.
It is crazy out here, and it's interesting. And I think I saw this on you did an interview with Tim Pool, where it's like, man, like we have all these people who used to have these sort of shared values, and now we don't even agree on that anymore. And so now everyone's sort of fractured and stuff like that. I'm curious though, like, you're a healthy guy, you train, very regularly. And I think you even used to be an MMA fighter. What led you to this stuff, dude? What led a former MMA fighter to become, as not, I don't know what to say, maybe notorious as he is today?
Well, notorious would be me going ahead and putting somebody in a full Nelson or something on a trolley, just sort of remix recent events. I'm not gonna. I'll let you guys dig into where that is. So I wouldn't say that I'm notorious, but yeah, I do have a couple of targets on my back, and you know, after some point, you know, the red dots they become great night lights for you. You know, you get to sleep well with them. But as
No.
far as it goes, I've always been sort of, you know, a truth seeker, if you will. So somebody that's really enamored with, you know, figuring out how things work. That sort of driven me. And, you know, it was early on that, you know, I came up during the Obama years, really. And, you
Oof.
know, those were promised and billed out to be these amazing, you know, this amazing time. The first black president, you know, it's supposed to be rainbows. We're all supposed to do the Family Guy where we come out of our white skin and, you know, it's just black people dancing in the street. And
Yeah.
none of that happened. But when I looked
Crazy.
around,
Yeah.
dude, yes. But it's like I look around and the problem is like everybody is trying to tell me that, you know, it's amazing that I'm looking in the Middle East, you know, everything, you know, there were none of the drawdowns. In fact, we were escalating our drone strikes and our tactics over that way. And I'm just sitting up here thinking like, okay, we still have war in the Middle East. Race relations have delved to an abysmal low. You know, that was
Yep.
that was the inception of Black Lives Matter, which again, depending
And
on
the
who you
vocal.
are,
Yeah.
bro, yeah, that vocal group is like, you know, depending on who you are, you'll have different opinions of Black Lives Matter. Mine is somewhere in the middle. Like I literally just think they're dudes trying to get money. But you know, every now and again, you know, there is a situation that sort of falls in their lap where they're like, "Oh shoot, we can get money and we can actually like you know do the greater good." Okay, but you know they get it wrong like 90% of the time, and that's just
Yeah.
by nature of who they are and the time. So coming up through that and sort of, I guess, being cursed with an IQ just a little too high to buy the hype, I was like, yeah, there's like, you people are nuts. Like, y'all are sitting up here saying all this stuff is not true. And it's like, I just want y'all to be honest about it, like intelligence. So I
Yeah.
actually moved over and started engaging with people on the right. And that's really when I got involved, like with the Hotep group. And that was more or less kind of like my introduction to the political fray. Now, eventually severed, you know, from the Hotep group. You know, Hotep Jesus and I, we just at the time he was still going by Ali Shakur, but we were just having like weird, you know, we were having a bit of falling out. There was this whole power struggle as far as you know where the organization, I guess, you know, as it was, where it would go. So I really
Can you
just
do me
went
a
off and
favor?
did,
Real
yeah.
quick, can you explain to people whom, because not everyone, we have a very mixed crowd, whom
Mm.
Hotep Jesus is?
Let's see. Hotep Jesus is kind of like the progenitor of I don't want to. It's like an alt woke black kind of. They exist in a liminal space between
Right.
sort of the black power people, the NOI people, the actual like super crazy Kemetic hoteps, the Hebrew Israelites, and black conservatives. So they exist in some kind of like 5 point intersection. And don't count how many I just gave you because I don't know if it was five or not. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, they exist somewhere in there where their message is more so of a, I guess, black empowerment, and some of them go kind of like real deep into the we was kings and
Yeah.
lore,
Yeah.
but you know,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
of them just sort of
Yeah.
like stick it as, you know, well, man, you see, black people are great, and we need to return to greatness, and that was the part that
Right.
I vibed with. So Hotep Jesus was
Right.
really kind of like the front man for that. And, you know, he was a real prominent street promoter, you know, involved in a lot of marketing causes. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what he was, a good, and that's what he is, you know, a
Yes.
good marketer.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
naturally, again, me being the guy that I was actually, you know, I actually skipped the chapter. I was actually coming from an anarchist bent, so I actually went on an anarcho-capitalist.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, man. I had a group of actual anarcho-capitalists. I know it's crazy. People, when they think of anarchists, they don't think of groups, but actually, you know, again,
No. Yeah.
anarchism in general is just self-governance, and anarcho-capitalists would basically be the guys who want to be like rich guys in suits with guns and what basically is like some twisted form of Saints Row. Like it just, you know, free market everything, bro. Like we want to do it. We want to have battle tanks. We want to have nukes. F it. We want to, you know,
Yeah.
no government. Just don't tax. Like they're like libertarians. If libertarians actually got the balls and stopped arguing about what, you know, flavor of vanilla libertarianism they wanted. So I vibed with that. But then
Yeah.
they, anarchism couldn't get off the ground because they were too busy beefing with the anarcho-syndicalists, the
That's
anarcho-transhumanists,
right.
and of course the anarcho-communists, and those are just like the worst people. So then,
Yeah.
like I said, I moved over to Twitter like full time and
Mm.
went into basically, with the Hoteps, and I was there for quite a bit. That's really where a lot of my early content was, and then after that, I sort of went solo. After we had the falling out, after the group sort of went their own ways.
Right.
So
Right.
but yeah, Hotep Jesus was kind of like the central figure in all of that, and man,
Interesting.
lots of stuff.
And so, okay, this is so interesting to me. I really like, actually, one of the original names I was gonna, or the original podcast ideas I had was a podcast called Issue Zero. I was gonna call it Issue Zero, where I got to learn about people's sort of background, because I always find it fascinating to find out where people
Yeah,
start and sort of where they end. And I love comic books. You're a nerd. You named Saints. You did a Saints Row refs, right? So
yeah,
they figured
of
it'd be a good thing.
course.
So it's interesting to hear this. So then you're okay. You're with the Hoteps, and
Hmm.
you pivot. You do your own
Yeah.
thing. What what's I guess what starts that snowballing effect for you? Like, do you just start tweeting what you think? Do you start looking at, because I'm going to be honest with you, when I first started interacting with you or looking at you, I didn't really know what to think. To be honest, I'm very skeptical. I was
Hmm.
skeptical of you. I'm skeptical of everyone. It's not even anything
Yeah,
personal. It's
obviously.
it's yeah. It's more like, okay, this guy could be smart, but he might not be. So let me check out his material, right?
He's
It's like
either a
if you
mad genius or an idiot, right?
right, and it's like he's a 6'5". He speaks very well. He's got a good voice. You don't have the NPR voice that I have, right? And I got
This
to
is
speak.
great.
I'm like I need to speak lower so I can match him. But like you don't you have all the ingredients, but I've been fooled before. But then I start watching your
Right.
videos, and I noticed,
Hmm.
this is why before we jumped on air, I said to you, I honestly, even though you classify yourself as a poster, and I do too, right? I do think of you as a savvy political strategist. So can you kind of tease that out for me, that arc, and what led to that?
So I would say eventually I got started. I was sort of making content. Keep in mind, Periscope was like all the rage.
Oh
So
yeah.
one of the key people that I got involved with, which I didn't know I was going to get involved with, was Jack Sovic. And
Oh
so,
wow. That's great.
yeah, Jack, and like I was just popping on the Periscopes, and apparently I was just making like exceptionally based comments under Periscope
Yeah.
because eventually he started noticing. He's like, "Oh hey," and like one stream, he's like randomly like, "Oh hey, Malcolm's here," and I was like, "Hold on, is he
Love
talking
it.
about me?" And it was like, and then there was a dual stream he did with Will Chamberlain, and they were hyping me up, sort of giving me the Roman Reigns push. I'm like, yeah, 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 okay. But then it's like retweet after retweet. You start to gain a little bit of influence. People start to sort of see you after you get shown on the timeline enough times. Eventually,
Yes.
people take notice of you, and with Twitter, it's like a game of critical mass. You're basically
Right.
it's like it's entropic, except
Mm.
energy is not being dispersed evenly throughout the environment. And as a
Right.
matter of fact, it's actually like you're the universe, and everything that you tweet like is slowly building up, and like the energy that you accumulate from everything around you that you talk about or are at slowly accumulates to you. So I started to get more and more influence, with just like the bangers that would eventually, that used to not get noticed, they get
Yeah.
noticed by more and more people.
Mm.
And so as that happened, again, it was the one fateful day where I think Antifa was it was the one really big Antifa protest. I can't remember if it was George Floyd or if it was one of them. And I just made I was in the cutoff shirt. I just picked up my phone, started filming and talking about how Antifa better not come to Alabama because, in Alabama, we love our peace. And one thing about it, you come at us wrong down here and you're liable to get pushed in. And
Yeah.
apparently people can love that. Like that video, I think I've only had a couple of videos to match that. It was like somewhere on Twitter 1.0, mind you, like 50,000 plus retweets. like literally on shows, everything. Like the floodgates just opened at that point, and that was what got me my first boost to like 30 something thousand followers. Like like what it's like tiers. Like you're playing a game. Is like you're at tutorial level. I felt like at that point I was like right after the tutorial level, like you get to level 2 or level 3. It's kind of like the dark sewer. Like they just showed you the sunshiny green hill level. Now you're like in the deep dark. Like I felt like I was coming out of that like to the mid game. And so as I'm getting to the mid game, then all of a sudden like I'm like I find a warp. Now to jump to Mario, I find a warp whistle, and like all of a sudden I'm up here like literally in the volcano zone. Like with 30,000 followers, like near in-game Twitter. Like for most people, that's like in-game levels of Twitter. Right. And so it just like propelled me up there.
And that's when it gets hard, is what I've heard. Like I have a friend who's got like, I don't know, I think 500,000 followers. And he's like, Twitter was fun. And then I made I think he said I made like 30 or 50,000 followers. And after that, it's you're playing a different game, it sounds like.
For most people, yes.
But he's a journalist. He's a journalist.
Yeah.
So it's
Journal
different.
bros.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
You
got to be fucking respectable. Like my brand was literally it was literally whatever Flex thinks. Like if Flex wants to make an analogy about bathrooms, which I actually had a banger analogy about bathrooms that did numbers. And it's like if I wanted to tweet something like absolute nonsense, I tweet it. And, I just didn't care. I still don't care to this day. But the point is, though, I don't exert energy trying to present this overly professional, like, this overly professional or this overly sanitized view. So because I'm not exerting energy, I don't know if you watch Jujutsu Kaisen, but it's kind of like, it's like Gojo and the 6 eyes. Like, because he's got the perfect combination of the 6 eyes to where he uses absolutely no energy. He can keep reverse curse technique running constantly and just stay refreshed. So he's at like a net zero usage for some that like people in the past, his predecessors. Exactly. And that's kind of where I feel like that's why I've been able to last so long. Like 50,000 feel hard. In fact, even, and this is after getting kicked off for like 2 years. I came back. It's like, bro, this is easy. Like literally, like you just start like, but it's because again, not a lot of people walk in, not a lot of people walk in the same shoes that they put on to go out to the club to present to people. Like normally, like, they're in some ill fit. It's like putting like a chick putting on high heels. Like she's putting on these uncomfortable pair of heels. They look nice, but she can't be in them for at least over an hour. Right. Me, I'm going to the club and I'm just wearing like, I would say Jordans, but I don't wear Jordans. I'm wearing like the same boots I wear to go to work. Like I can be this way all day.
This is what I love about you.
So
I wear engineer shoes. Like there was a guy at the gym today wearing Jordans, and I was just like, why, bro? Like why? Yeah. I'm wearing the old man. Like I go hiking. I've got the I've got the customized soles because I'm 31, but in my head I'm 1,000. So I'm not, I'm not wearing Jordans.
I know that feeling.
To deadlift, bro. What are you doing? Like, so no, I get that. I get that completely. And I really like that. And to our listeners who had sex in high school, Jujutsu Kaisen is an anime. And no disrespect to you, Malcolm. It's just a joke.
No, don't worry. I didn't. It didn't happen until college for me.
Shout out. All right.
I know, man. Dude, yeah.
I too am glad that high school is over. But to people who weren't familiar, what he's referring to is a character who's able to exert energy basically endlessly. And the comparison he's making essentially is, look, man, this is just who I am. And that's what I'm hearing is this is my authentic self. And that is an inexhaustible resource, which I think is really important. It's really important and very salient, honestly, because you can just produce and feel nothing.
Awesome, like it's not like being in a content house where you gotta when you go out of your room you gotta be like, oh, man, I gotta interact with these dudes, man. Like,
Right.
Like, it's not like
Right.
one of those situations.
Right. You want to be a star, don't you? Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I like that approach. That's the approach I honestly take. Sometimes I put an analysis on the American housing market. Other times I post Ann Coulter. So shout out to
Yeah.
Ann. Yeah,
Oh man,
she got me a lot of followers. So shout out to her.
you had fun
So
with that one, didn't you?
I did enjoy that. I was like, oh, this must be what Malcolm feels like. And I think she was just joking around with me too. So I think she took it in good humor. But you were
Oh my
right.
god.
Like it was just I didn't post the video thinking like, oh, this is gonna do numbers. I was just like, this
Mhm.
is a video I made. I think it's fun, and yeah, 1 million views later. There you go. So I'm
Exactly.
all for that. So I like getting a feel of people's backgrounds. Now I kind of want to sort of delve into what's going on in your head these days, man, because you've been everywhere. You've been on Tim Pool, you were on Fox just 10 days ago. You're always thinking about something. I've got a bunch of topics, but I'm honestly curious to hear what's on your mind these days.
Oh man. Yeah, so I'm just kind of picking, looking through the guidebook, kind of picking out what class I'm gonna have, when the post-apocalyptic collapse comes. Like, I'm still settling somewhere between Berserker, but I kind of want to be a ninja, kind of like thief raider.
Ninja. I
So
mean, that's a good balance of stats.
yeah,
Ninja. Yeah.
yeah, but
Berserker.
I,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the natural. Like, that's the natural. I feel like on my skill tree, I've got kind of like a natural where I can just be a bruiser, and
Right.
I kind of want to play hard mode. I want to be finessical, and I'm 6'5". Obviously I'm a big dude, so
Yeah.
obviously that's going to be a lot harder. But see,
Yes.
that's the thing though. In the post apocalyptic collapse, after the government basically, after they basically raised the debt limit beyond its like believable inflection point, I feel like not much is gonna matter. We're gonna have more than enough lead in the water to where people won't even notice that. Who's that 6'5" dude trying to do parkour over to get my damn crops? Like, everybody's gonna be too to actually
Just
realize that
just
look right.
freaking Peter Darker over here. Yeah. That's crazy.
but
Yeah.
but that's where I'm at though, bro. Like, it's pretty bad out here. Like, even on the right. And I always tell
Oh
people,
yeah.
look, you can be comfortable in a tribe or on a side, but at the same time, you don't put down your arms just because you're with your brethren. And that's what's kind of happening on the right as well. And so I'm finding myself increasingly just sort of in a unique alone position. Like, there would be days where, you sort of get on, Twitter, Instagram, or whatever social media, and you're looking at what the tribe is talking about and you're weighing in on what the tribe is talking about. But these days, everybody is just so equally crazy now. Like, you see people on the, like, I'm serious, bro. You see people on the right being stupid, and they're like falling for obvious traps, obvious bait. And then the left is still crazy, like they're still doing it. So, I'm just
Yeah.
kind of like, damn, bro, we broke bread together, man. Like, we did a podcast together, like, and here you are sitting up here retweeting the same about these black that's like from 2013 potato quality, about black people like jumping white people talking about the race wars coming. No, you don't. That's literally what they want you to do. They want you to talk about this stuff so the media can point their cameras and be like, look at these racist white people. They're getting ready to go kill black people. And then black people are like, oh, hell no, man. It's about time, man. We got to take these honkies, man. We got to take it to them. And so it's like, have we fallen so far in IQ to where we're almost to the it's got electrolytes, man, kind of stage? Like, I feel like that's where we're at. And
You
so
know what's
mentally,
Go on, sorry.
nah,
I interrupted you.
I was about to
Uh,
say, but yeah, mentally, I just think everything's falling apart. Our government hates us. They're literally,
yeah.
after the Restrict Act, where they tried to pass, kind of got,
Wild.
yeah, they're now talking about a internet code of conduct, or fines or penalties for
Social
violating a
points.
certain and that's
Yeah.
originating in the Senate. And
Yep.
I'm just like, they really think, it's like, damn, they really think we're like that. But then I look at the
Yeah.
people on the right who are supposed to be like our only hope, and I'm like, damn, we might really be like that. Like, we might really be stupid enough for this to work. So
Bro.
naturally I'm skipping chapters to the point where I pick my load out and I sort of, refine what my post-apocalyptic role is going to be, because I just don't trust anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I feel I'm with you. I mean, I think we've kind of alluded to this conversation before, where Ben and Ben's my co-host, and
Yeah.
he's English. He lives in London, across the sea, or he's across
Oh,
the pond, and
hip hip.
yeah, super Tory,
Oh,
and
shit.
yeah, and he hates them. It's the same. Like, honestly, bro, like, what I wish he was here, because if you heard what was happening to him, it's like a mirror image of us, basically. It's the same
Mm,
movements. They might be slightly different, right? The angles might be reversed, but it's the same sort of nonsense, right? You've got guys trying to just you got guys in Parliament just trying to have a discussion. There was one guy who got expelled from the Tory party just simply for bringing up, hey, can we have a conversation about how we handled, the problem? And that's it.
very,
But he
very
didn't say,
reasonable.
he didn't say what's my opinion. He didn't say the government failed. He didn't say the government succeeded. He said, can we just have a discussion?
Very
Expelled from the
polite.
party. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And bro, they fucked him up in the game. Like, he can't do politics. He's expelled. He can't work again. That's crazy,
I'm
bro.
sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at the utter destruction of somebody's life, but at the same time, I find it hilarious. He like, excuse me, could we
Right.
sort of just
Can we
review
talk
the
about
tape?
this? Can we
Yeah.
just
Could we look at the
yeah,
film and just
yeah.
see? You got to have the pinky out. Like, they're just like
Right,
us.
right,
They're burning,
right,
but
right,
their pinkies out.
right, right.
But
Just
it's like,
to be polite. Yeah, yeah. And
but it's
that
like,
was it. That was it. It's terrible, bro. Bro, it blew when Ben sent me the story. I was like, yo, you used Chat GPT to write this, and then you photoshopped it. Like, I don't have time for this, dude. I've got a lot of work today. And he was like, go Google it right now. And I did. Hello, adorable.
yes.
And yeah, you Google it, you find out that that's absolutely true. And to your earlier point, it's interesting. The race stuff has been really fire, like, on Twitter, and I find that stuff really fascinating, especially with conservatives. See, with Democrats, I think the question, or the thing that I always see, is they have, like, all the power and still screw it up. And then with Republicans, it's almost like the same thing, but in a different way. I don't even know how to describe
It's
it. But
it's
with
more impotent.
exactly right, there's an impotence. The race stuff is really interesting to me, because it's like, why, like once you understand, like, the fact that these media outlets are collapsing, you understand that there's money involved. How could you not just naturally come to the conclusion that, hey, they're going to use these ideas to capitalize on your fear of the other side, or your fear of other races, in order to make money off of you? Like, why does this keep working again and again and again and again? It's crazy to me. What are your thoughts?
Humans humans in general, we're not used to existing in a state of constant stress. And to be able to exist sort of with your guard up all the time, you've literally got to be in almost like a state of constant stress. And I mean, our generation in general, we're definitely not like, we haven't been through anything. Like, yeah, we had the housing crisis and, we had like the financial collapse, but even then we were so insulated, most of us were
Right.
so young that is, and when I say most of us, I mean like the people of us who are kind of like the thought leaders, or actually
Yeah.
like give the opinions. Like, most of us were so young to where we didn't feel the full effects. Like, we weren't working
Right.
the triple shifts just to make about 20% less money in terms of value than what we were making, a few years ago. And
Yeah.
so we're softer, if you know what I mean. It's kind
Yeah.
of like it's like in fighting. Normally you're trained to have your guard up. You're trained to always to have your
Interesting.
shoulders conditioned, in a way to where you can keep your guard up, your hands going, to where, at no point in the fight you expose yourself. Unfortunately, most people in our generation, their arms got tired probably about halfway through the Trump administration. And they wanted, and that's again why you see so many people shilling DeSantis. They're tired of being on guard like that. And I always tell people, like, bro, I don't care how much power you get. Like, it's just like, conservatives think the battle's won because, they can finally like misgender people. And I'm not saying that maliciously or take a jab, but they think that they can finally like actually call a trans person what the hell they actually are. Like, dude, you're a dude. Like, they think we won. No, I'm nuts. Now the game is just beginning. Congratulations. It's your turn now.
Starting line.
And so
it's the starting line.
And so it's like everybody's kind of put their guard down. And so the media tricks that wouldn't have worked on us when we were sort of hyper vigilant, when we were like, dude, this looks like a psyop, or this looks like a trap, or, now it's actually working. And so, again, my point of view is people are, they're not built to fight a war of attrition. And the media has all of the, they've got all the manpower. They're still, regardless of how many of their traps that you thwart, how many of the misdirection attempts and, the subterfuge that you rat out, you're still nowhere near close enough. Like, you've successfully played defense. Congratulations. They still have the ball. It's like they're still at the control. And that's the problem, is that, again, they can just flip another lever, another psyop. Guess what? Are you ready or not? We're not ready. And so we start. Yeah. So it's like, biggest example of this is where, it's like it's like when there's something that's done. Actually, you know what? The shooter in Allen, Texas. Is that it? Dude is clearly a nut, a white supremacist. Like, we just got done talking about mental health with the Nashville tranny shooter, right? Yep. So I'm sitting up here thinking, okay, guys, this is easy. Like, we're gonna, like, okay, just wait, don't say anything. Next thing you know, you got unverified accounts, people claiming to have work corrections once upon a time in Texas, talking about, oh, this is Tango Blast, that tattoo. And I do a quick Google search. That's the D-Town Dallas. Like, it's literally on the city.
It's
like,
nothing.
Bro.
Yeah.
And I'm telling people, like, what the heck? What are you doing? Just wait. Like, we were so good at this a few years ago. Like, just wait. And so they craft. So then it's like, what happens? They craft this narrative about, like, this dude was a gang member. He was in prison. Turns out it's just a Hispanic 4chan nerd that likes memes. I'm like, and now they're sitting up here arguing like, no, this guy isn't a real white supremacist. This is a trap. I'm like, congratulations, you dumb nuts. You blew your load on the gang member story. No one's going to listen to you. Not when you got Dan Rather or freaking Anderson Cooper sticking in my poopers and going up and saying, well, apparently this guy had white supremacist tattoos. Here are his tattoos. And he's sitting up there throwing the high old you-know-who to the Stalingrad. And they're just like, I'm like, dude, like, you fell for it. No, yeah, it's like nobody is going to listen to you now because you did not follow the rules of engagement that were set forth when you knew what kind of game you're playing. And so it's like that's a very good example of how, like, we're getting tired. People on the right are losing steam. They're losing the ability to fight. And so that's where I start, kind of surveying it. I'm like, okay, all right. So I'm just a collapsitarian now. I know the shit's about to fall because it's like, if these are our guys, then I'll stick with them so long as I need to. But at the same time, I gotta kind of keep my head up, and I'm not gonna sacrifice myself for the cause. And so that's sort of what I mean when I say, like, it's, we're getting to that time where everybody's kind of played their max amount of minutes, Oh yeah, and then all the infighting. That's the worst ever. Like, the beef, like, it's beef season on the right, like 24/7. Like, you would have thought that we had it. If we had this shit sewed up, man, like, we got 30 points in the league. We're putting the subs and the scout teamers in the game now. But no, it's like, all of this stuff.
Sorry, if you don't mind me to interrupt, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's just that there's a lot for me to sort of unpack there. Like, the 4chan meme stuff. When I saw that, I was like, wow, Hispanics are doing great. I didn't realize they could be white supremacist. Like, I didn't know they're doing so
Shit.
good. White
Mhm.
supremacists was like, Jesus, you're moving on up. Great
That
up. That's great.
that's
That's
new.
a great
That's a
move.
new variant, bro. That's like a
That's a
new Left 4 Dead variant.
hey, good
That
for
wasn't
you,
in
son.
like that wasn't in the
Yeah,
initial game files. That's DLC
exactly. Yeah,
unreleased.
plus 5 attack points, son. Good for you. Like, yeah, no, but for
Mhm.
and it's so it's that it's this. I what I like about something you said. I don't remember where you said it, but the 48 to 72 hour rule is
Mhm.
becoming
Fox.
incredibly salient. I made that mistake myself over the weekend. There was a video of a young white nurse who, it seemed like, was trying to take a bicycle from a group of black teenagers. Right? Me being who
Mhm.
I am, automatically side with the black teenagers. That's just how I am.
Mhm.
However, you learn what happened 48 hours later. Turns out this woman was in the right? And
Mhm.
it reminded me
You eat it
of,
sometimes.
yeah, like it's like, even as someone like myself who like consumes news to an unhealthy extent, still falls for it. I don't know what effect it's called, but there's a name for this effect where you read a news article that you have possess expertise in, and you go, that's not true. This isn't true. Like when I read tech articles all the time, I'm like, this isn't true.
Mhm.
This is also not true. And then you read an article about something else, and all that knowledge you possessed, which informed you that the previous article wasn't true, suddenly got out of your mind, and
Mhm.
you're taking this new information as if it is worthy of being believed. And yeah, man, it's this patience thing, this patience virtue that you're sort of espousing, I think is so important, because we
Yeah.
are getting tired. We are getting tired. And the only way to combat that is to remain calm and sort of lower sort of energy reserve, so we can practice that critical thinking once all the facts come out. But that's not what's happening. And to your point about infighting, yeah, man. I mean, I'm politically kind of homeless. I lean right on a bunch of different issues, but like I've been watching
Mhm.
this stuff happening on the right the past couple days, and I'm just like, hey, aren't you guys? Shouldn't this be a slam dunk for you guys? Like this, there's
Mhm.
no who do you have? Like it's like what 2024 is coming up real fast. Who's on that side? Buttigieg? No,
Yeah.
obviously he's out, right? It's not even worth it. Biden, Weekend and Bernie's. I mean, I guess, right?
I think they're
Like, I
going
don't
with
know.
Hakeem Jeffries, man. My money's on a long
You really
shot.
think
I'm
so?
putting it.
Tell me
I'm
why.
putting it
Tell me
on the
why.
kid, bro. They're already getting him Speaker of the House. They're already, or they kind of the minority leader position. Like they're trying to groom him. They're either going to
Mm,
use him this upcoming election. I think if Biden doesn't make it, if he can't even limp to the time for a primary or something, because I mean he's got incumbent advantage, but at the same time, I just don't think that he's going to make it, if you know what I mean. Like I don't think that it's going to be him.
physically, yeah.
But yeah, but I bookmarked my tweet about Hakeem Jeffries because again, I said just you watch, like when Pelosi lost that and they put Hakeem Jeffries up there and he got up there and kind of brought back the Obama-esque feel. I was like, this may be like not even
Ah,
just because he's black, but just because again, it's a far cry from what we've seen. Kind of
right.
smooth spoken. Yeah, he's young. He's kind of a bit of an SJW. If you look at his politic and his positions, but at the same time, just seems like somebody that they can sort of congeal people around and utilize recency bias to their advantage. To
Mm,
where now all of the attacks of this whole like extended trap they've been laying for the right, the white supremacist stuff, the kind of feeding
yeah.
little clips of, black people doing to white people, which kind of gets people, clutching their metaphorical pearls. Now they can bring all of that to bear by putting another black man up there. Like when they did with Obama,
Yeah.
it wasn't time. Like it's like, you throw a move out there, but the move doesn't have any setup.
Right.
Now they've spent plenty of time setting it up. They got the whole Donald Trump as a racist sort of, narrative going. And now
Yeah.
Donald Trump, even though he's not really that, I don't think the dude's a racist. I think he's a New Yorker, like he's a New York business dem. Like what more
He's
do you want?
he's
But
a 70 plus year old white dude who also, by the way, voted for mostly progressive policies, and
Exactly.
on paper is no more. He's a standard Republican. Like all his policies fall in line with standard Republican presidents before him. But you go on. Sorry, I just
Exactly.
that.
No,
Yeah, go on. Sorry. Yeah.
but it's like they've gotten the right to push back so much against the we're not racist, we're not white supremacists, and
Right.
now they kind of gotten them falling into the like look at these black people, like we can't exist in a country with these people, and now they put a black man up there, and that's like a move of strategic genius because now you get to see all of the worst stuff
And then you
come
get to
right back
say,
out,
see,
and
look, see what we
that's
said.
perfect strategy.
See,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
then again, you look at how hard they were going on the Mexican that was a white supremacist. No, this is not a real white supremacist. Real white supremacist, dude. Well, how do you know? Hmm? How do
Yeah.
you know? And then the whole Patriot Front and all these militia groups and stuff. That the feds
What
have been basically
what
you
is
know
this obsession? What is this obsession? Because like I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. Did you grow up in the U.S.? Like I'm a first
yeah.
gen immigrant. Yeah,
Hmm.
so I'm a
No,
first gen
I'm
immigrant.
110%.
Yeah, so I grew up. I'm a naturalized citizen. When I was a kid, yeah, I dealt with like the usual. There's certain people that you deal with. I grew up in a small town called Greeley, Colorado. Shout out to Greeley, Colorado, home of Al Qaeda. That's actually true. We were the birthplace
That's
of Al Qaeda.
hilarious.
You're welcome.
Wow.
And
Ship them out.
yeah, we did. If actually that's actually true. The guy, founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, is named Saeed. Forget his last name, but his name's on the university. Apparently, a great student. Anyways, side note. So I remember dealing with more sort of racially intense people
Hmm.
as a kid around that age. Now as an adult, it feels like I'm dealing with something like I'm not seeing skinheads, bro. I'm encountering I'm encountering something very different and not necessarily from the right, which is what I think the narrative wants you to think, right? I'm encountering it from the other side, right? And it's
Sir, are you
interesting.
saying that the left are the real racists? Is
I,
that your conservative origin story?
look. I'm a bit of a scamp and a bit of an imp, if you will. So I might be saying something. But no, I mean, in all honesty, there is a bit soft bigotry there that I encounter way more. Like, bro, if I'm in a small town, bro, I grew up in Colorado. If I'm in a small town in Colorado, I'm not worried. If I'm in a room full of white women on Vassar at Vassar College, I get a little nervous. I hold my purse a little closer, right? Like I don't know what's gonna happen, and so that's what I mean, bro. Like it's this interesting like narrative that they're still trying to push, and it's like for people like us who've grown up and been around people and seen the country, we're just not. I mean, have you experienced that? Maybe you're encountering. I mean, you're in Alabama, so maybe I don't know. What do you? Are you finding white supremacists sort of just sprouting up like that, or what's?
I actually made a joke about this. Biden he went before Howard and gave a speech and said that
Oh
what was it?
God.
The oldest forces in this nation believe that they have a say as to how things are going to turn out. And then he later went on to say that white supremacy is the most dangerous terrorist threat to this country. Rich, by the way, when you have when you have CCP plants and everything coming through the border, which is currently still wide open. But we won't go there because that's a little bit basic conservative. But basically, I'm like, okay, I've lived in Alabama my whole life.
Yeah.
Sorry, bro, I have not seen a white supremacist yet. Maybe we're just progressive like that. But me, our governor is Meemaw. Old K-Op. She talk kind of like this. Gain everything.
Yeah.
K-Op. That's our governor. Yet we ain't got white supremacists here. So I don't know if maybe we're leading the charge on the racial equality, but I
A
haven't seen
disappoint.
one.
Such a disappointment, Alabama. I really was rooting for you on that one. Yeah, man. I feel the same thing. I don't worry about skinheads. I worry about
Yeah.
I worry about
Karens.
people. Yeah, I worry about people telling me that I'm not good enough to
Mm-hmm.
understand, what I'm going through or what I do
Yeah,
go through. And that's
yeah,
been interesting. And I don't know why the right doesn't take advantage of that narrative. Does the right take advantage of that narrative? It feels so easy. It's like, hey,
yeah.
they think you're stupid. And by the way, there's I
Mm-hmm.
so I used to work I was an economist, a trained economist, and I worked under a really great political science professors, the head of department at university, and we did a study on biases when it came to race, and we
Mm-hmm.
came out that actually most people don't. My leftist friends, they hate hearing this, but it is a fact. You're more likely to be spoken to as an equal, actually, by a member of the right than you are a member of the left, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing I encounter the most. And so I wonder why, like, I mean, if I was a strategist personally, I'd be like, oh, let's just take advantage of this. Let's tell everybody. Let's tell everybody. Look, they don't even statistically, we can show you they don't think you're their equal. But
Exactly.
but
That's where
there's
white savior
no.
complex comes from.
But why not use it? Do you what? I mean, you're a great strategist.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
And, again, conservatives feel out of water when it comes to having the racial conversation in general. Like,
Mm,
there's always this whole aspect of where you can talk about like a racial issue, a racially black issue, and you're guaranteed, if
mm,
you have a conservative audience, to get one of the following:
mm.
either oh, well, we grew up in a rough childhood too, so we know exactly
Right,
what it's like, or
right,
oh, it's not just a black issue, it's a society issue. Why do you have to make it a black thing?
sure,
Or you might get sort of you might get the like really extreme response, which is, hey, you're just being a race baiter. How about blacks stop doing this or this and
right,
this? And, again, on the surface, that looks horrible. There's some truth rooted in that last
sure,
part. But, those are the three, like, ingrained responses that conservatives have to the
yeah,
racial discussion to take it out of the racial realm. All three of those, well, actually, two of those do. One of them sort of leans is sort of like more aggressively pushing it to, you guys come into our world and stop committing crimes. Whereas one of them's like, hey, well, I can empathize with that. So clearly, it might not just be you guys. And then one of them's,
right,
sort of in the middle of all of that, which is like, why do you want to take it there? Like, I don't like having conversations about race.
sure,
Like, why would you make it
sure,
about black? And so, because conservatives don't like to, have those conversations, they can't lean into the going into black neighborhoods, so to speak, sort of in online places, and like trying to say, like, well, the liberals, hey, we think you guys are fine, but the liberals, they think you guys are dumb, because then that opens up a can of worms that they're not equipped to talk about. And it's mainly just because conservatives aren't
mm,
necessarily racist, but they're
right.
avoidant of, conservatives are good
I've
at
been making
avoiding
that
and
argument for
fleeing.
years. Yes,
Hmm.
keep going. Sorry, you're preaching to
They're
the choir.
avert.
Keep
No,
going.
no, no. That's it. That's good. I mean, they're avert. Anything that conservatives are averse to, they tend to flee. Like,
Right.
conservatives are not the get in your face fighting type, because by nature,
Ironically.
conservatism,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's literally just not what we do. It's
Right,
like,
right.
because we exist by societal mores, which again, for somebody like me, that's sort of, that's somewhere on the spectrum. Naturally, I can see it from both sides. Like, I see why it exists, but the response to actually abide by it or
Mm,
exist within that framework is not like a complete option, because again, I'm literally trying to contort myself into so many different positions because it's
right.
not natural to me. So naturally, I'm in a great position to deconstruct and sort of, look at the parts of why conservatives are like that, because conservatism is rooted in society, and society is rooted in polite behavior or existing in, company of other people.
Right.
And you can't exist in company of other people by running up on people and
Constantly
confronting
rocking the
them.
boat.
Yeah, you can't do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So, but that's what communism and progressivism is about, which is why there haven't been successful communist countries, because naturally, once you open that can of worms where you're delving into the darkest aspects of humanity,
Right.
communism rooted in kind of, a greed, a envious position, and almost in some ways a lustful position. Once
Yeah.
you open those can of worms, it's like a ticking time bomb. Whereas successful societies exist on conservative principles because those imbue sort of an innate stability. And
I
so,
really, I really like what you said. Again, I don't mean to interrupt. I just really think that I
uh,
want people to focus in on that. There is,
mhm,
and I get that. And you know, it's interesting. I think Jordan Peterson makes an interesting point that's kind of similar to this. But the larger point is this: look, if you are of a conservative ideal, you are organically not going to want to rock the boat. Why? Because that's what you are. That is what you are intrinsically. Those
yeah,
are your ideals. Your ideals are to assess and move slowly, hence the phrase
mhm,
conservative. So what does that mean for how you approach people in society? You're going to follow the rules that society have given you, and subsequently you're going to miss certain opportunities. And that's really interesting to me, because I think for me, the thing that's always confused me about the right is that I feel like, man, if they want black people, you would never see a Democratic president for the rest of American history.
yeah,
And I
and
don't
that's the
know if they
line.
realize. I don't know if they realize that or not. I mean, you're more tapped in than I
Mhm.
am.
I don't know if a
Like
lot of congressional conservatives want that, to be honest, because then they have to do stuff. There's a unique point, that's a horrible joke. It's horrible, but it's true,
but
dude.
it's true.
Like they would have to actually do some. Like think about that for a second, though. If
God
conservative
damn,
politicians couldn't just
that's a
shake their
bar.
fists angrily at whatever Democrats were doing and basically just go on and make clips like like just make viral clips and one liners like Jim Jordan roasts the Senate, this and this, or Marjorie Taylor Greene confront, like if they had to actually pass economic policy on the merits of their knowledge of the economy that don't center around getting rid of woke stuff. It's kind of why a lot of DeSantis's policies, if you look, there's a common theme, which is
Mm-hmm.
combating wokeness. Like everything
Right.
is either woke this or COVID that. Is
Yep.
because again, anything outside of that culture war aspect, not necessarily because they're, but just because they're not those type of politicians. They're not the money. They're not the financial guys. They're not the wizards. So anything
Right.
outside of that wheelhouse of combating wokeness, they can't do it. And any policy that they have opens them up to possible backlash if they get in there and screw something up. And so they're not going to.
That's
So they
brilliant.
have an explicit vested interest in
Incentive.
slow rolling
Yeah.
it.
That is in you blew my mind, because yeah, that's the end point. The end point means now I have to do something, and
Yeah.
the natural incentive structure of our political, Jesus Christ, that is
Make clips while not
dark.
doing anything. Like I said, that's what your
Yeah,
campaign is. Like,
yeah,
you're beholden to the lobbyists who basically, have a chair on the committees that you're at. You're beholden to basically the low info voters who will literally make all their decisions off of one
most
viral clip or whatever Sean Hannity gets on and says. And then you're
right.
basically beholden to, the people on your side of the aisle who are like, dude, you're doing too much, man. You're making us look bad. Now we're gonna have to actually
Yeah,
start doing stuff. We don't want to have to do stuff. We just want to show up and play Flappy Bird on our phones because they're boomers, so most of them haven't gotten past that. But that's all we want to do. And so, it's like
that's so
that's
that's
why
beautiful.
the strategy is the way it is. Meanwhile, the left, they just want power, so they let their people go wild. They're
Do
like, hey, you
whatever.
want to yeah, it's like, hey, if you want to push this insane Green New Deal, whatever, we'll throw in some censorship, some tax hikes, and some
Yeah,
some
yeah,
more money to the colleges, and we'll call it a day.
yeah.
Like, and
I have
they're
a,
okay with that.
I have a question for you, because this is, it's funny because I had all these like list of topics, but I really like where this is going because this feels much more like natural. I'm curious because I don't really get. I mean, I get. I talked to Jeff Taylor a lot. Jeff's a great columnist, conservative black columnist. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on this, because you're like me. You, I'm up. You know this. I'm up at 4 or 5 a.m. every day. I go up. I go to the gym. I do fasted cardio, right, for 40 minutes. Keeping us
Yeah,
in zone 2. right? And then I eat, and then I lift for another hour to an hour and a half, and I do that 5 to 6 days a week. Yeah.
I didn't
Well,
do
I'm trying.
that.
Well, I don't have kids, right? So
True.
that's the difference. Yeah, no. So yeah, so but the only reason why I mentioned this isn't even to flaunt it. It's to point out to the fact that, oh gosh, where was I going with this? Basically, oh gosh, I lost the thought completely. Give me a moment.
We're
Give me a
close. You're
moment.
close. You're close. You want to get
I'm
my
so
take on
close.
something?
Yeah, it was about exercise. It was about here it is. Here it is. So we're similar in sort of the way we approach things. At least in terms of our health, we're both people who really. I think my sense is you really care about the direction modern young men, what direction they go in, if that's correct.
Mhm.
And I'm curious to want to hear your thoughts on, because I've noticed, in my opinion, the left is losing men of color, in my opinion. As much as they might try to minimize it, as much as this writer, at the Huffington Post, or this leftist commentator on the Young Turks, whatever they might say, they are losing young black men, and the reasons I constantly hear for that are, well, because these young black men are all misogynists and they hate women. I get called a misogynist every 5 minutes, so I'm used to it by now.
I don't
But
get called that enough, man. I really want some more black feminists to, just to kind of slap her. Like, I feel like they're scared of me because I went on a couple of tirades where I just like literally, like I love my black feminist sisters. Like, y'all are amazingly y'all are amazingly supple in the brain area.
you know
Very
what's
smooth.
crazy, bro? It's not black feminists who call me that. It's white feminists. Nothing but white. It's great. Black feminists don't say much to me. They're just like, whatever. But they have too much to say to me, and so
Damn.
I'm wondering. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm still trying to figure it out. Why is that? Uh, but I'm curious. Like, do you feel like there's a shift happening amongst young black men in terms of this politics? Like the last election, what, Trump won the most black men? I don't know. Is it the history of federal elections for the president, or since
Yeah.
Reagan? It was some crazy record.
Republicans, yeah, for
Yeah, amongst
Republicans, it was the
Republicans.
largest
Yeah,
share.
yeah,
Honestly, it's the natural cycle, anyways. And this happens. Okay, well, first let me get the joke out the way. Of course, they're losing all the black men because they're transitioning them. They're making them cut their
yeah,
dicks off and put dresses on. So clearly,
yeah.
but no. On a serious note, as a minority becomes more affluent, their politics shift from radical progressivism, that sort of beneficiary of progressive policies. They shift away from that and more so to, okay, we're at a place where we can maintain, let's kind of keep it the same. And then you have to get a new progressive wing to come up. So the problem is this new progressive wing is nothing like the progressive wing that our parents, were with. Like, black men of the 50s, the 60s, 70s, like those are a different type of black men Democrat voters.
Yeah.
They're sitting up here, their minds are still the actual civil rights movement, thinking about like actual like stuff like Cornwallis standing
Yeah.
in the gap of the school.
Yeah.
Like that's where their mind is. So this new multi-culti kind of stuff that's like coming up, like this new one, they're far away from that. Most of these people are breaded. They're at least firmly in the middle of the class, and all they see
Right.
is that when we vote Democrats, my 401k starts to go down a little bit. Taxes start to go up. I start to get a little bit lighter in the pocket, and then you throw in all of this weird homosexual, homoerotic, LGBTQ plus 2IAS divided by 9. And, they're really like, they don't
Yeah.
like that, like, because they're still
They're just
Christian.
looking at their cell phones. They're like what is it?
Yeah.
LTE. God damn it! They're trying to get me with the agenda
Mhm.
again. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have like the, the reason I say black feminists, because black feminists love to turn on black men and say, we're the white men of the black
Yes, they do.
community. And
Yes.
so, the more you ostracize people and the more people slowly get to a point where their politics are more affluent than they used to be, they get pushed further to the right. And,
Yeah.
that's kind of why they're trying to, that's why the Democrats are so hell bent on having a porous border, because what happens to the children of those immigrants who are basically living on the system? They
Right.
become your new minority class, and they become the ones that you can dangle out social programs, all of this welfare to, because again, that's where their money comes from. And they tailor their politics towards that. So they want these, that's also why they moved voting age down further, or they
But
want to.
let me push back just on a little bit back a little bit on that. If these are Hispanic voters you're referring to, I'm not sure if they've thought this through. If that's the actual plan,
I
if I accept
contend
this
they
premise
have.
is true, but the thing is Hispanics tend to be way more conservative than what people realize. Like
Hmm.
they don't grow up
They're
with like
Catholic.
yes,
Most of them are
well,
Catholics.
they're Catholic. They work like dogs. Like
Hmm.
it's a very old. I mean, I'm a first generation immigrant. That mindset is something I completely understand, and so I'm wondering, is that a strategy that will actually work, especially since apparently we have Hispanic white nationalists now? Like, what's going on here? Like,
My
do
friend.
you have they thought? Go on. Yeah,
Oh no, no, I'm right there with you. I was there with you for a while and thinking, oh, these Democrats are so stupid. They just imported their bane. But
yeah,
unfortunately, here's the thing:
yeah.
we all of our parents are marginally, or not marginally, but significantly more conservative than us. But the thing
Mm,
is, children eventually grow up to that age where they sort of rebel against what their parents were,
sure.
and they go left. And especially if you start throwing them in colleges, which are already glorified indoctrination centers, start
Right.
giving them more grants, more free tuition or free college or low tuition college where they can go be indoctrinated by their pink haired super leftist professor. What happens? As they become, as the Hispanics speak better English and they become more Americanized and westernized, you reset the cycle and they naturally become more left leaning. And
So
that's
do you
what
mean
ends up
like an
happening.
incremental way? Do you mean like
Yes, they're
because
children. The
the
parents will
children?
always, parents are going to be
Yeah.
conservative. They're looking at the children. The parents can't vote anyways, unless you want to really get into some illegal shit.
Right, right,
So the
right.
children and the children of those children, that's what they're looking at. They're playing the Chinese game where you think several
Jesus,
decades in advance. And
that's
the
that's rough.
institutions are already captured. Think about this: the board. It's like playing Monopoly, and you've already got hotels and houses on every property. You own most. Maybe the Republicans have the boardwalk, which nobody ever lands on, but
Oh
you got all the
Jesus.
railroads, all the utility companies, all the
Yeah.
green, the red properties that you land on all the time, and you got houses and hotels on. You don't need any of that because you got 90% of institutions. So you can restart the game anytime you want.
Yes.
So
It's
black people
it's
will be on the, like I said, we're going to be fighting with the conservative, the conservatives, because of these new blacks, and a lot of these crazy young, a lot of these crazy ass young black kids out here that really ain't got no fathers and stuff, and they're going to be apolitical. They're just pawns. They're not going to
yep.
be voters. Most of them
100%.
don't vote anyway, so they don't put their finger on the scale. But those of us that do vote, we're going to be alienated from the one side that we need to be aligning with, because they've been told to be extremely racist towards black people, because black people are, because they quote crime statistics, they'll say black people are 90% likely to come and steal from you or knock you out or something like that. So we're going to be button heads with them and pushed away from agreeing with them. Meanwhile, the Democrats usher in their new voting bloc in a couple of decades.
I hear you on this, and I think that's not a bad bet to make. I read an article you wrote for Tim Pool, great article by the way, on the red pill. I'm curious to know, how do you reconcile this with growing sort of movements like, I mean, I'm with you. Look, our my podcast, I get called red pill. I get called liberal cuck. So I'm like, I'm doing something right because everyone hates me, so that's good. But like,
I know
so
the
but
feeling.
like, yeah, so like, I'm curious, like, if this, red pill stuff is, you said is novel, and I agree. I think there does need to be some changes in there, and it did start out as a really great. I think you called it an alternative, like pushback counterculture. Is that going to have any effect on these? Because like a lot of the young guys I know are miserable, and by young guys I mean like 20s, like early 20s, right? 20 to 20, let's say 20 to 25, just for the sake of
Yeah.
conversation.
Mm-hmm.
They are not and they don't call this sort of awareness of how society kind of misplaces them, especially black men, right? I have a lot of, Irmi was on here, but Thomas Curry, the writer of The Man Not, is pretty good on talking about this stuff. These young cats, they don't call it the red pill, they just call it common knowledge. Is there a chance that those youngsters, especially young Mexican men, because what I've learned, at least, and maybe you can disagree with me on this, what I've learned observing American politics is this: whatever happens to Black Americans is the canary in the coal mine.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't happen to you, tomorrow, but it happens to them, it's coming, and I assure you, because it happened to them. And I see Hispanic immigrants suffering the same thing. So how do we reconcile that with this, quote unquote red pill movement, even this new wave that might, come through or not? That's a complex question, I know.
Nah, it's I've actually addressed this before, but it's interesting because that article is actually written about me by one of my friends that works for Timcast. I know Bert actually wrote
I didn't know
that.
that. I thought it was you.
Yeah, I know a lot of people did. I had this whole beef with Undead Chronic, and where he was actually trying to he's a shit starter.
He's a nut job, bro. He's a nut job.
They're cool and they're cool. Okay, let me preface this by saying I was right there with you. They're crazy. Their whole group is crazy at first, but then it's like if you actually sit down with and talk with them, you actually realize yeah. Like that's the funny thing. We're actually after he was making the live stream event where he wanted me to debate. Like I just didn't join at first because I didn't have time, but I was just over here talking to him hey, I would, hey, you need me to join. So the goading stuff doesn't work. But one of his friends or followers that would DM me like, please just join, man. Like we need some entertainment or something. I'm like, after I finally got a moment to put the kids down, I was like, okay, I'll join. And, I actually discussed it with them, and like they had it all wrong too. They thought I wrote that article, and they thought I was talking about the OG red pill. So they were shocked when I brought up people like Thinking Ape and Wheat Waffles, and a lot of
I was like, I didn't know this guy was so entrenched in this world. Yeah.
Well, see, I grew up watching the content, but I watched the content, but not as a participant of like the red pill, like I was scoring by women, but more so as I wanted to understand it, and so I came at it from an academic perspective.
I'm right here with you, buddy. Yep, I'm right there.
Exactly. And so when, it came down to talking about it, what I ended up finding out was, or what they ended up finding out was, I'm talking about like these new guys, like, the Rollo Tomasis, that Joe Lampton guy, or Mr. I Got a Lot of Hoes, these new creators that are trying to like make their space in the movement, and like the really dark, dank, depressed MGTOWs. Those were the types I was talking about where we needed a reset because that's going to become the norm. What's happening is that the red pill movement is getting hijacked. And so what ends up happening is that the rational, sane voices of the red pill, the people that are talking about how the system is slanted in the way of the women and how all this woke culture and stuff is basically putting men in a situation where, we have like almost no role in society and the women want more. And, there's just no way to actually live up to it. And then you got these dudes flashing their watches, Bugattis and stuff, talking about cheap pickup lines and all that stuff, like the PUAs and all that are like parasites on the movement.
I can have sex
and taking it and perverted.
As I want. Yeah.
Like they're taking and perverted it, and that's what the new kid sees. And so we're at a weird spot now where the new kids coming into the red pill movement, they don't see the people that talk about the real issues or the system. They see the PUAs and people talking about, hey, I'm going to get you laid tonight. And women are nothing but tools. And, let's be careful because, they're going to try to clip that. I know y'all Y'all will try to find this clip and clip that. The people who say that women are nothing but tools and that we need to sleep with nothing but women all day and look at my watches and
But it's
my
true.
button down shirt, wear my button down black shirt, and like those are the people that the new kids are seeing. So they're
Right.
skipping over the rational stuff. And I touched on it is because of the algorithms. The
Yes.
algorithms reward more outlandish content that gets eyes. That's how TikTok even became a thing. And that's why most of these people are
Correct.
born off of TikTok. Like most of these new stars that you see coming on Twitter getting ratioed. Because you can say some crazy on TikTok and it's going to get you a hell of a lot of views.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is, that's what when you're a 13-year-old boy and you log on to TikTok, you're seeing that. You're not seeing Andrew and Tristan Tate. Okay, maybe you're seeing Andrew and Tristan Tate, but their stuff isn't like their extended stuff isn't crazy enough to
Yes.
monopolize a lion's share
Right.
of the algorithm. So most of these
Right.
kids now are seeing this crazy. They're telling you like you got to have a gold watch, 4 Bugattis, and you got to get a vasectomy, and like the toxic side of it.
Shout
Or
out
you're
to
seeing it.
Rolo. Yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. I know.
And he plays it off like it's a troll. I hedged my bets and said, okay, it was just a troll, but it inspired me because I've seen some dudes say it for
Right.
real because I have.
Right.
But
Right.
to this day, I'm kind of like 60-40. It was not a troll.
I'm with
But
you too, man. How do
it's
you feel?
like
How do you feel about that? By the way, like, what do you think about that?
it's defeatist. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
what's your point? That was what inspired the video that got that article. Is like, what's your point
Right.
in life? And I explained this to Undead Chronic and them, like, cause my kids were in the background and I was playing with my son while I was having a talk. I'm able to. That's one of
And by
the
the way,
nice bit.
can I say this real quick? My
Yeah.
favorite videos from you, they're not like it's like, oh, Malcolm was on Alex Jones, great, which is great. I'm genuinely mean that. Malcolm was on Fox, awesome. The videos of you just playing with your black children and just being happy, and your son saying, "We can't leave this blanket, Daddy. Like we've been under here. I know we've been under here 70 seconds, and you can't breathe, Daddy, but we can't leave." That's the stuff that I genuinely mean this. Adds to my day and puts like a step in my day. So I appreciate that you post that, but continue with what you were saying. I apologize.
But see, that ties it into a nice knot because that is what keeps me going. I'm not just talking about like in this culture war battle. I'm talking about just in life in general. Like otherwise, I'd be with all the and this isn't me joking, this isn't me like trying to be a braggart, but like with all the IQ points that I've got at my disposal, and all the muscle and the charisma and all of that stuff that I've somehow happened upon. I don't know how I got it because I wasn't born with it, but
just hard work.
yeah, but with all of that, I'd be a raging nihilist if I didn't have my
Yep.
kids to keep me grounded. And I see, stuff like get a vasectomy. You want to prioritize career and money and all that. And I'm like, okay, but what are you doing it for? Because you'll have, 90% of y'all won't get that.
Yep.
And if you do get it, you're going to become jaded once going to the club don't hit like a hit anymore. It's like you can only hit 0 to 60 in a Bugatti in like 2 seconds once and still have that same payoff. Eventually it just becomes driving and it's boring.
Right.
And so you need something greater. And by people telling their kid, by people telling these young boys, get a vasectomy or don't start a family or all this, you're depriving them of what we need to keep society going. What we need to keep people actually like into the fight, because nobody cares about politics if it's just them looking out for them. We care about politics because we're looking out for our kids. And that's the only reason why I stay in politics in general, because I look at the world that my son is going to inherit, that my daughter is going to inherit, that my older boy is going to inherit, that my older girl, that she's going to inherit. And I don't see it being good. And it's like that spurs me to do greater. Like, men, otherwise we're not going to do, like, we'll sit back, kick back, playing video games and all day if we don't have anything that inspires us to be greater. And that's where it all ties back to. If we're going to reset this, if we're going to win this culture war, if we're going to win this political fight, we got to get parents raising kids. But you can't do that if the whole next generation says, I don't want to have a kid, or I don't want to find a woman because these women are all shallow thoughts, which I mean, there's a growing number of them that are, but there's
Unfortunately,
also
yeah,
a lot of them that aren't. And you just got to
right,
find it. If you get, it's like if you shoot your shot at the high school cheerleader, cheerleading captain, you get blown out of the water because she's dating Mr. 6'3" Chad Thundercock over here that's on the football team. And you think, oh, women are all shallow whores and you never go
right,
again.
right,
Like that's the wrong, and then you start
yeah,
delving into MGTOW content. That's the wrong thing. Like you just
yeah,
took your first failure and you took that to the bank and cashed it, and
yeah,
that's all you got to your name now. Like, no, you got
yeah.
to you got to invest in yourself. You got to take that loss and say,
You're gonna
okay,
take a lot of losses. Yeah, go on.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, sorry,
yeah,
sorry. I
take
was
them
gonna,
out. That's it.
bro.
That's it. No, you're
Bro,
cooking.
I've taken so many. Like, it'd be. I'm not. I mean, at this point, I'm not embarrassed because it's like whatever. But like, I have lost so much. Like, I don't know. I wish I could go back to my younger self. The one thing I tell my younger self is, hey, you know how many L's you think you're gonna take? Multiply that
That
by like
mm-hmm.
50 to 100x,
Yeah.
because and
Mm-hmm.
it's not just personal, it's it's professional, it's it's what happens to you in life. There are things you can't control, right? If you want to make God laugh,
Right.
show him your plans, etc., etc. The thing that
Mm-hmm.
really sort of disappoints me, especially about the sort of the red pill stuff, and you alluded to it earlier, was like, whatever your thoughts are on Andrew Tate, I don't care what people think because it's whatever. But like, there are so many, the thing that's sort of popular around the quote unquote manosphere right now is showing clips. It's like, Andrew Tate is no longer red pill. He thinks you should just, love one woman. And if she treats you well, don't, cheat on her. You should stay with her. And I'm like, I've been saying that for 4 years. Like,
Thank
he's been
you.
saying it forever. You just
Mm-hmm.
didn't notice. You
You
just
catch
didn't
the flash,
care.
the
Ex-
algorithms damn throw at you.
exactly, because it's not sexy to say, to be a guy like that and say, "Hey man, you should, marry, one woman who treats you well." And when he converted to Islam, people were like shocked, and I was like, "No, this makes sense. This makes sense." He talks about is this stuff and Islam. And
Yeah,
so,
natural
it
progression.
it makes perfect sense that he ends up there. And so, like you said, the algorithm is feeding the wrong things. I had to tell my leftist friends. They were like, well, Andrew Tate thinks you can do this and that. I'm like, all right, now you got me defending Andrew Tate to you. Okay, here we go, let's do this. Okay,
Exactly.
so here's the clip. And they're like, well, I didn't know that about him. And I'm like, of course you didn't know about him, because that's not what they want you to know. What they want you to think, and maybe this is it. Maybe
They
maybe
want
I'm
you to see the
happening
front
on
of it.
maybe I'm happening on something, just like how they feed you the black and white stuff, black versus white
Mm-hmm.
stuff. They feed you
Now
the
you're
man
getting
versus
it.
woman stuff, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that now everybody's fighting each other.
It's
And
self-feeding. And look,
exactly. Yeah.
AI, the AI has already won. I'm gonna tell you
Yeah.
this. There's no need to assimilate us. We're already assimilated by an invisible, unseverable connection to the
Yeah.
algorithms and the human biological hacking that dopamine feedback, that dopaminergic loop has. We're already a slave to that.
Yeah.
So the AI
Yeah.
won.
Yeah.
It's already
Yeah.
over, bro. Like past the sticks, 21-0. We're skunked.
Well, here, hey, well, if you have any room in your party, let me know. I am a bit of a scamp, though. I've been banned from every Dungeons and Dragons group, not because I do anything nefarious, but I just like to make mischief. Every time I roll, I just ask to have sex with whatever we've encountered, and apparently that irritates people. But if you're okay with that, I can occasionally show some skill and be a freaking, I don't know what class I'd be. Onion Knight. Let me pull Final Fantasy. Let me do an
Oh
Onion Knight.
man,
Yeah,
love
that's a
those
deep cut.
classes.
That's a deep cut.
Woo.
Yeah, that's a deep cut. That's a tactics cut. Yeah, man. I gotta say, I think this was awesome. I wish I could keep you for longer, because this was fantastic. We talked about nothing I wanted to talk about. And I
and
like
get
that. I'm
everything.
happy.
Yet,
Yeah,
yet
no,
we
and I'm
happened
really no,
upon the secrets.
I'm so happy that because now I've gotten in sort of an insight. I hope we can have you back again someday soon.
Oh yeah,
Because yeah,
definitely.
this was a great conversation, and I learned a lot, and I walked away learning something, which isn't always true with some of my guests. Won't name
Holy
any
shit.
names. Shout out to you, Malcolm Flex. Shout out to you, buddy. Where can people find you?
Pretty much easiest place to find me is on Twitter, Malcolm_Flex48. That's once
Yep.
again on Twitter. Hopefully they'll have my subscriptions up so I can actually start making a little bit of money off it. I say that I'm a grifter, but I'm terrible at it because I don't make much money off of it. But
I'm
I'll
trying
hopefully start
to.
living up to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's both
My,
grift together, buddy. I'll push you out there.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, okay, all right. And then you also you've got your Twitter, you've got your Substack. I thought you
Mhm.
had something else. Did you have a YouTube channel? No,
Yeah.
you don't.
No. But you can find everything that I'm at and will probably end up being on at www.flexyoursuccess.com. So that's actually,
Awesome.
I'm shocked I got that domain, but
It's a
yeah,
great name.
www.flexyoursuccess.com.
You'll find all of that stuff in the description box below, you guys. Like, subscribe. Malcolm, man, I'm really glad we got to talk, man. Learned a lot. Enjoyed this conversation immensely. I have nothing. I love seeing brothers like yourself succeed. As another, weightlifting 6'2" black dude who's also been described to have elegant or Obama-esque speaking styles. I just want to see more of guys like us out there and succeed. So I wish you nothing but the best, brother. Thank you for joining us.
Appreciate you. Thank you for having me, Basil.